Hello, this is Colin with Maker Farm. In this video we're going to show you how to wire your heat bed, how to do the solder connections, how to connect it to the mounting plates, and how to put your thermistor on it as well. This video it's the exact same, doesn't matter if you have an 8-inch bed or a 6-inch bed, it's the exact same process other than mounting it, and I'll show you both of those. Okay, so if you turn them over, on the back side of each of these, you're going to have two large pads on the outside. Those are where we're going to be soldering to. All the pads on the inside there, those are for resistors and an LED. The only thing that does is it turns the light, it turns that little LED light on when there's power to the board. Most of the printers these days, you can't even see underneath the bed, so we don't use those anymore. They're just kind of pointless, but they are still there if you wanted to solder on some surface mount LED and resistors. Okay, so what we're going to do, you're going to want to get a soldering iron, heat it up. You're going to want to get some solder, and then later on we're going to need some other tools like some Allen wrenches and stuff like that to mount these things. First thing you want to do is get your heat bed. You're going to want to get your install kit for your hot end or for your heat bed. Depending on which printer you're purchasing, it will come with different hardware in the bag. So this specific one is for Prusa because we have the mounting hardware. Printrbot, it's not going to come in a bag like this, but you'll still get the cable like this. All we're going to do, if we unwind this cable here, you're going to see we've got 4 wires, 2 red, 2 black. The red and black are right by each other. And so all we need to do, we're going to take 2 red wires, we're going to strip off the insulation at the end. I usually like to take those 2 and twist them together. And we're going to do the same thing with the black. Get our black wires, strip the insulation off the end. You usually want to take off maybe 1/4 inch, maybe 6, maybe a little bit less than that, maybe 5 millimeters of insulation. So you have sticking out the end. Then all you're going to do, you're going to take your soldering gun. I like to pre-solder these. So just put a little bit of solder on the wires themselves so that they'll solder easier, and then we can take our heat bed and do the same thing. Just put some solder on those little solder pads. Then all we have to do is hold our wire on our solder pad, heat it up, solder it on, and then let it cool. Same thing on this side. Okay, so that was easy enough. That's all the soldering that we have to do. It doesn't matter if you have red or black in either spot. That doesn't matter. It just matters that you make sure to have the same wires on the same side. So the 2 wires on this side go together and the 2 wires on this side go together. Other than that, it doesn't matter. The next thing we're going to do is put together our thermistor. So if you get your little Thermistor Install Kit, if you purchase a full kit for the Prusa or the Printrbot and you get it with either Printrbot or ramps, you will get this Thermistor Install Kit. If you purchase it with Gen 6, Gen 6 cannot control the temperature of your heat bed, so it does not come with a thermistor. So once we unwind this, you've got 2 wires. Just peel off insulation off both those ends. We've got our small sleeving for our thermistor. If you take that and just cut it in half, just going to make sure those holes are open there, and then all I'm going to do is take my thermistor and I'm going to put each lead into its own sleeving. Then I'm going to take those high temperature sleeves and push them all the way up to that glass bead. If I take some of these crimping ferrules, I like to just kind of squeeze them in the middle just a little bit, and we do that so that when we put them on our thermistor, if you don't squeeze those in the middle just a little bit, they won't stop when they hit that sleeving. They'll just keep going. So if I put that on there, and I can fold it over there now. This one I squeeze it too much. I'm going to open it up. And just go ahead, put it on there. You'll notice it will stop where I squeeze it in the middle. And there we've got that. Take your heat shrink tubing, we're going to cut it in half. And then we're going to thread each of those onto our wires for our thermistor. And you can take a crimping tool. This is one I just got at Radio Shack. It's called a D-sub crimping tool. It's like 10 bucks. It's a great one to have. I'm going to go ahead and put the crimping ferrule in there, shove a wire in the other end of the crimping ferrule. We're just going to crimp it, squeeze it. Do the other one. Okay, so now I've got both of those crimped on there. Just going to take a cigarette lighter here. Going to heat up that heat shrink tubing to protect those crimping ferrules. If those crimping ferrules were to touch each other, basically you wouldn't get a reading when you go to check in your program, your Printerface or whatever software you use. Okay, so now I've got my heat bed, it's all soldered, I've got my thermistor. I'm going to get some cap-on tape and just go ahead, I'm going to tape it onto the back. Cap-on tape is a high temperature tape, it works really well for protecting electrical components in high temperature spots. I'm going to peel some of that off. Since this is for a printer board, I don't want this all the way up top there. Usually just kind of want it in the center, but we're going to want it a little bit more towards these connections here. So we're going to go ahead, tape that down so it doesn't move. And that's all we have to do to solder up our heat bed and get it all wired for our printer board. Now, or for a Printrbot. For a Printrbot, we're just basically going to take this. We're going to take our board and we're going to put these wires down through it. It's going to mount just like that. Then you're going to use your screws to go ahead and bolt that down. I usually do like to drill a couple holes here and actually zip tie these wires to that so that they don't move around. If you're doing the Prusa, I didn't put a thermistor on this one, but you do the same thing. These wires just happen to be blue. Your wires could be red and black just like that. If you're doing Gen 6 or ramps, you wouldn't use this connector. You would cut that off. For ramps, you would double these wires up and put them into D10 or D11, don't remember which it is. For Gen 6, you would cut these off and wire them in directly to a 12-volt power supply. That will heat this up. For printer board, you're going to wire them just like this, or if you buy it in a kit, it's going to come pre-wired. To mount this to your bed, you're going to get your MDF plate. These are the new plates that they're all going to come like. You would first go through and use these holes here to mount your Y linear bearing holders. These are for the belts. You would mount those belts first, and then you would come with your heat bed. Our kit in the future, we're going to come, and these little spacers are going to be sitting here in your heat bed plate. I'm ready for you to push out. Right now we're just cutting them out separately, but all you're going to do is take these and just push those out. There's still a little bit of wood attaching them, so you can just easily push those through. And then we're going to use those to mount our heat bed to our MDF plate, okay? So we've got all four of those spacers. And basically for the Prusa, what I like to do is I like to have my wires going out the side just like this, and then I can zip tie these wires here to this bolt hole to give us some support. So we can basically take our bolts, thread them through. You take your spacers, put your spacers on, put them in the holes. Then we can do the exact same thing for this back side as well. And then you go ahead and use your nuts, put them on the bottom, and bolt it all up. Okay. After that, I usually always like to print on a piece of glass. So you can get a piece of glass like this. You can just go to your local hardware store. They'll usually cut it for you. For the printer board, you would use a little bit smaller piece of glass, but the idea is still the same. And then what I like to use is I get these binder clips. If you've ever seen these, it's to hold paperwork together, things like that. What you can do is you can put your piece of glass on there, and then if you're building a Printrbot, you can put one here and one on the other side, and then if you squeeze these tabs together, you can actually pull those out so that it doesn't hit your rods, and you can just do it just like that. You can do the exact same thing for your Prusa. You can put those back in, pull them out, and then what you can do is you can put one here, you can put one on this side, you can put one in the back, but you don't want to put one here because that's where all your soldered wires are, and you can short those out. Then after that, you can just cover your piece of glass in Cap-On tape. You can purchase large rolls of Cap-On tape from Maker Farm. Makes it a whole lot easier than if you were to have a small roll and you were to try and put that on there. You can purchase these large rolls, which you can cover, you know, your whole bed in just two pieces of that tape. And that is it. Make sure to visit Maker Farm. Check out our new products. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thanks for watching.